Well, dear all, dear guests from online and offline, thank you all. Good morning. Welcome to the ninth for Free Festival and the 2024 Shenzhen Fashion Week and the ninth International for Free and Sustainable Fashion Festival 2023 Compassion in Fashion Forum from Fur Free to ESG in this city of Shenzhen, which is so vibrant and also a fashion center of the whole globe, has its important position in shaping the future of the fashion industry. Often, Shenzhen is referred to the Silicon Valley of the fashion industry, featured with its innovation and commitment to making progresses, always standing on the forefront of fashion, leading the development of the fashion industry, and there could be no enough words to describe that. And today's dialogue we're going to hold in Shenzhen in the Fashion Week is also another testimony to that. Also showed the potentiality of it leading further development of this industry, and it marks a different transformation. Currently, we face a lot of global challenges such as climate change and the pandemics, etc. And people start to care more about what kind of businesses are they supporting with the money they've spent. Obviously, the fashion industry is undergoing some significant changes from the SDGs of the UN's to build a harmonious coexistence between human and nature are all new frameworks we're trying to build. And that ignites some new development routes for also pose challenges to the fashion industry. And today's forum will focus on one perspective of that, from fur free to ESG. Standing on this point of view, we're going to tell people that we have more better options, and technologies development and advancement have already given us enough different options in terms of materials which are of the same quality and performance of traditional fur or even beyond that. For example, the mushroom-based leather to textiles and fabrics to all kinds of alternative materials that are more plant-based. And there are so many new options available. And later in the exhibition, we're going to be visiting. We will see a lot of them. And those materials are not just only for the aesthetic value they could provide, but it also is in accordance with the One Health promise that we make in between human, environment, animal, and everything else. In this platform, we're going to be sharing our opinions and ideas and talk about the future of fur-free to ESG. This is not only a forum, but also a call to action. We call on all fashion brands, manufacturers, designers, and consumers to work together to embrace sustainable development and social responsibility. When we unite together, we can open up a new era which features harmony, styles, fashion, sustainability. Let our forum be a catalyst to educate and communicate so that the fashion industry could live more in a world which is sustainable, uh, but more ethical way of development. Thank you to all of our partners, including Shenzhen Garment Industry Association and all the other co-hosts of this forum. Let's join our hands together and push the fashion industry towards a greener future. Thank you all. Well, thank you so much, Miss Echo Liu. Thank you for that sharing and the blessings. And we've heard from her that when we want to focus on ESG as a target, obviously the dialogue within the industries are very important. Also, that's what this forum is all about. How to influence the younger generation consumers so that the trend that they are going to set are going to be in the same direction. And obviously, that requires a lot of industrial influences to be pushing that. Apart from our developers, organizers of the forum, also ACT Asia, we still cannot have done it without Shenzhen Government Industry Association. And today here we also have the president of SGIA to join us. And now let's give the floor to Pan Ming, Ms. Pan Ming, to have another opening address to this forum. Please. Well, dear all, dear guests, good morning. Oh, it's a great pleasure for me to join this forum again in this new year of the 9th International Fur-Free and Sustainable Fashion Festival 2023 Compassion in Fashion Forum. Joining this forum on behalf of Shenzhen Government Industry Association as an undertaker of organizing the forum, I would like to extend my sincere welcome to all of you. Thank you all for coming here. Green is the background of high-quality development. Is also the fashion color that the Shenzhen Fashion Week had always adhered to. We've issued the first carbon footprint report for a women's apparel brand and organized the sustainable development competition of the fashion industry to join hands with many partners to build more vibrant industrial ecosystems and establish the image of a green garment industry in Shenzhen to show everyone else in the world. This forum will going to be focusing on green development and commercial implementation, sustainable fashions, etc., with 4 topics that of great concerns of many people. And we've established dialogues with many organizations from home and abroad. As you see from the big screen, from fur-free to ESG is the main topic of today, and that's going to be very important for environment, government, and the companies and the social governances. Well, this marks how a company can fulfill their social responsibility as a social citizen. Right now, ESG is a heated topic among the commercial world, also very much in accordance with the direction of green development. ESG requires the companies to do better government and corporate governance and accelerate on building world first-class companies to establish an environment which is more suitable for high-quality development. According to statistics, the Chinese garment industries are proactively joining ESG practices and proactively disclosing their ESG works. 19 out of the 24 listed companies in the fashion industry in China have been proactively disclosed their ESG report. And when compared with last year, that's 3 more, higher than any other industries. Now, the Sustainable Working Committee established by our SGIA have been focusing on doing the certification of carbon footprint, carbon labels, and green carbon evaluation system standardization, hoping for reaching carbon peaking and neutrality as soon as possible. Also, with the innovation, coordination, green, open are the development theme that we adhere. And we wanted to invite many partners from home and abroad to discuss about sustainable fashion and the greener development of the industry, leveraging those new techs, new products to empower the industry or even create new business models to create an environmental friendly, sustainable fashion industry and push for the whole industry to grow faster and higher. And I call to all of your action to join this initiative with us. And we will continue to develop with our partners from all walks of life. to set the trend for new fashion and create new openings. And lastly, I wish this forum a great success. Thank you, Ms. Pan, so much, and for all the information you share with us. From her opening address, we can hear that there are some very detailed statistics and how the companies are adhering to the concept of ESG and put them into real practices under the background of the carbon peaking and the carbon neutrality national strategy. That is also an ESG standard that the people are still looking for to explore. And that could be a very great example. And of course, that is not only to be participated by the companies, but many consumers are involved. Like last fashion week we had last year was the first carbon zero, carbon neutral fashion week we've had. And it tells the public that green is the right color for the future. And when we talk about ESG from the perspective of economic development, and we do hope that there will be more voice from the rest of the world. And now let's give the floor to William Kennedy to join us from online. And he has some words to tell all of us.
Good morning. I'm William Kennedy, Economic Consul at the British Consulate General in Guangzhou. I'm glad to join today and congratulate ACT Asia and Shenzhen Fashion Week for holding this important event. BCG Guangzhou have supported this conference for many years, and it's great to see the ongoing effort that ACT Asia and its partners undertake to help promote fur-free fashion and environmental, social and governance goals. In the fashion industry, ESG is becoming increasingly important as consumers demand more transparency and accountability from brands. UK industry associations have been a driving force in ESG work. The Circular Fashion Innovation Network has been created to accelerate the UK towards a circular fashion ecosystem, which will reduce waste and overproduction of clothing by embedding circular business practices, helping to deliver the UK Net Zero strategy and broader climate goals. The British Fashion Council launched the Institute of Positive Fashion in 2020, which aims to change the fashion industry by providing guidance, resources and best practice on ESG issues. UK fashion brands such as Burberry, Mulberry, Alexander McQueen and Stella McCartney are taking steps to address these challenges and improve their ESG performance. For example, some brands have committed to using more organic, recycled or renewable materials, adopting more energy efficient processes, and supporting social causes and charities and applying codes of conduct for their suppliers. These forums provide opportunities for engagement, bringing together experts and promoting awareness and knowledge sharing. We hope to see continued positive change across the industry. I'll just end by wishing every success to this event and thanking the organisers again for their hard work. Thank you.
非常谢谢 Thank you. 我们很感谢
Thank you so much, William Kennedy from the British Consulate General of Guangzhou. And we can hear from her that many international brands are also walking on the same path of ESG. But we've been hearing that these are all just examples as we have picked out. And why we need to hear about those examples? Because we do believe, apart from us working on the front line, we do believe that the many partners are going to go together with all of us, and the many consumers and companies are there still don't know that much about the target or the goals. They haven't felt that much about the climate, how the environment are changes, and how the environment are bringing impacts to animals and humans, but don't know where to start to contribute for it. And also for many commercial organizations benefiting from profits and pushing the consumptions always towards a faster and a faster cycle. People don't know whether we have new options. And later in our forum, there will be many more new examples to tell you in the supply chain, as well as building the awareness. Every bit of the perspective are going to be included. And by that time, we're going to be hearing how the academic field that have been supporting the industry's development. Now let's give the floor to one great partner of ours for a long time, Mr. John Law, the Dean of Academic Strategy of London College of Fashion. Please.
Greetings, and thank you for joining ActAsia's forum. Now, one of the most important days of the year, where like-minded, passionate, and compassionate friends gather in the protection of our animal friends and natural world. I am John Lau, the chair of the United Kingdom Board of Trustees for ActAsia. In my work in fashion education, I have seen firsthand how ActAsia's work has made a positive difference to communities in China and throughout Asia. This forum is important for our discussions, sharing of ideas and practices, and a time for celebration of our achievements. I invite you to take part and make connections so we can continue to multiply our efforts for a more sustainable future. Our work has a developing relationship with London College of Fashion with an annual collaborative project. Master students are given a challenge to think, conceptualize, and propose new ideas for ActAsia's work. This long collaboration continues to strengthen, and you will be able to see our efforts to change the world in the displays today. And ActAsia now calls on you to take part. We have an online course in sustainable fashion that takes you through the process of the fashion industry and the changes needed for a more sustainable and compassionate future. Today, make friends and connections, forge fruitful partnerships. Together, we can have a future that lives in harmony with our animals, natural earth, and the world.
Thank you. 我们真的非常谢谢 John 一直以来长
Well,
期和
thank
我们
you
持
so
续的在
much, Mr.
完整
John
的
Law,
时尚发
for
展领
your
域的
long-term
支持。因
support
为除了
on
产业
our
的努力，就像我们
collaboration
跟深圳时
because
装
we
行业协
fully
会一起做的
understand
努
that
力以外，
with
学界
only
如
the
何能够不停的
industrial
给予这些
development
知
and
识和教育的资
cooperation, we
源，帮
still
助大
need the
家往对的
resources of
方向前
education
进。
from the
就像我
academic
们一
field
起开发
to
出来
push
的可持
everyone
续发
towards
展
a
与全
great
球零
and
批
more
草的这个共
correct
同课程。
development. For
刚刚
example, the
John 提到的，大
sustainable
家
for
也
free
有兴趣多了解的话，
fashion
可以透过我们
design
这个小儿童
courses
的扫码，
and
它是一个免
later,
费的
if
公
you
益
are
课程，
interested
正
in,
如
you
新的
can
雅座
scan
一直
our
以来
QR
所
code
做。
and join it. It's a free
希望透
course
过对
like
人、动
what
物、环境
ActAsia
这
has
样子
been
概念，
doing in the
在我们的
past
时
and
尚领域里
hoping
的公
that
益课程，
it could
帮助
help
更多的人，
to
我们的时
support
尚
more
业者知道
people,
可以
to
怎么往
help
下发展，
more
也帮助我们
fashion
更多的消
industry
费者了解你
practitioners to
可以怎
know
么做
where to
选择。
development
那我
towards
们从
and
产
let
业、
more
从学
consumers
界，进
understand
而希
where
望
to
影
make
响到消费者
choices.
的背后，有一个重大的目标，是我
Behind
们
the
希望
scene
能
that
够
we are
朝着
trying
可
to
持续
impact
发
the
展目标，
consumer,
也是
a major
ESG 的根
target
源
is
来
to
自地。
go further
那这个
to
概念底
achieve
下，大家
ESG.
现在最常了解的，应该除
Under
了
the
绿色以
ESG
外，
framework,
就是
in
我们的生
addition
物
to
多样
green,
性。
we
我
are
们怎
also
么
having
从这
better
样的一个大
understanding
概
to
念底下，帮助
biodiversification.
大家可以
Under
找
the
到自己
framework
的
of
资源里可
biodiversity,
以发展
we
的
would
方
like
向？ 我
to
们接下来
understand
邀请
how
中
to
国
take
生物多样
advantage of the
性保护
resources
与绿
without
色发展基
exploiting
金会
them
的副
to
秘书
enjoy
长
further
熊一
development.
彤，熊
Now,
副秘
please
书
allow me
长在
to
线上和
invite
我们一起
Madam
交流。
Xiong, Deputy Secretary General of China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation. Welcome.
好的，女士们、先生们，亲爱的同事们，
Ladies and
大家上
gentlemen,
午
我
好。
们
dear
现场麻
friends,
烦帮我们切我们会议室里邀请我们的熊秘书长。熊秘书长好。
哎，您好，
hi,
大家好，
Madam
能听
Xiong,
到
good
吗？
morning.
可以，
I
现
hope
在
you
能
can
听得
hear
到，
my
能
voice.
看
好的。
见我们现场。好，请
好，
您请，
谢谢。
谢谢。
好，
Thank you.
女士们、先生们，亲爱的
Ladies
同
and
事们，
gentlemen,
大
dear
家上午
colleagues,
好。
dear friends,
我是
good
熊一
morning.
彤，中国
My
生物
name
多样
is
性保护
Xiong
与绿色发
Yutong,
展基金会
the
的副秘
Deputy
书长。
Secretary General of
我非
China
常高兴今
Biodiversity
天能够参加
Conservation
第
and
9
Green
届
Development
国际可持
Foundation.
续时尚零皮
It
草
is
盛
with
典
such a pleasure to
2023
welcome the
同理
ninth
心时尚论坛，讨
from
论
Free
从零
to
皮草
ESG
向
Forum.
ESG 可
We
持
will
续
be
未来。
discussing how
中
to
国绿
go
发
further
会
from Free
是
to
中
the
国生物多样
ESG
性
about the
保
future.
护与绿色发展领域的全国性协
Our
会，
foundation is
1985
a
年
nationwide
为迎接我国
institution
特有
throughout
物种
the
麋鹿回归
nation
而成立
for
的。
protecting biodiversity.
近40年来，
It
中国绿
was
发会致
founded
力于倡
in
导生态文明，推动绿色发展、可持续发展，保护生物
in
多样
order
性
to
和生态环
protect
境，
the
在创新、
beauty
研
getting
究、
to
科普等方
China.
面均取得了一系
Regarding
列重
research
大
and
成就，
development
发
and
挥了重要作
innovation,
用。
we have been acting very
当
important roles and
前， 全
pillars
球
in
性危
the
机
recent
不
years.
断显现， We have started to see a lot of tension in food, agriculture, biodiversity, and other major issues, and we have been constantly talking about those challenges. It requires all the industry to get collaborative and more joint-handed. For today's meeting, I'd like to share two different concepts. First of all, the impact of fur industry to ESG. The development of the fashion industry, including fur industry, has exploited large amounts of resources and has a major impact on the economic development. By 2030, when we have 8.5 billion total population, fashion industry will go exceed that of the cloth and fur industry, become the largest pollutants. The green development and the sustainability of fashion industry will help us to further curb down the carbon emission, and it has become a consensus among the whole industry. From raw material to the production, we consume carbon, generate wasted water, which will lead to significant negative environmental impact. In addition, the health and the well-being risk of the fur industry should not be neglected. In the production of fur, highly toxic chemicals will be applied. If consumers wear the fur for a long time, the chemical toxicities may have injury to the general health of the dermatology system, respiratory system, and the systemic issues. We have to figure out an approach to reduce the epidemics and in the meantime to protect the environment, but also to improve the general well-being of the population. As of ESG, since the establishment of this framework, it has attracted a lot of attention as an investment target. It has become an international consensus on the attention of ESG. Since the Paris Accord entering into effect, the global wide we started to pay more attention on ESG. In not only fashion industry, but also throughout all industries, the China characteristic ESG framework should be further proceeded, and the ESG development in China is fairly rapid. Environment is one core factor of the ESG framework, which speaks for the first letter E. Its production of enterprises may generate carbon and other wasted goods. The ESG network within the company enable a enterprise to reduce their emission and to contribute on the achievement of their dual carbon strategy. ESG also represents the company's investment in corporate social responsibility. It can build the company with better reputation in the markets. The Tier 1 Association, our foundation has been developing rapidly in the field, and we are evolving a lot of practices in ESG, and the main actions have been taken. In 2020, we established the ESG evaluation framework, and in 2 years later, our standardized committee, where the China Development Research Institute, China Sustainable Innovation Institute, and International China Environmental Foundation, we have created ESG assessment criteria, and which is started to be applied. Our foundation will continue to work with different social factors, make a non-contribution in green development and sustainability. That's like the development of green supply chain and the development of ESG, as well as the biodiversity evaluation standard and the general well-being. We will continue to make progress. Thank you very much for attending this conference, and I wish a success to today's meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Xiong, for your opening remarks. With all of the opening addresses of the 5 speakers, we can clearly feel the trend of development in the ESG field. Before officially kick off today's session, you might be wondering what should we do in the future. So please allow me to introduce our speakers for the remaining sessions, and you will be able to have an understanding about the design of today's agenda. And we have also designed the special snacks for you during the tea break, as well as the very uniquely designed exhibition booth outside. So next, we will start with Lexi Chen, co-founder of Relook, to talk about the ESG framework and the youth leadership for sustainability. We will also be talking about Free Fur. Fur Free is a big framework. It's not just about the terminology itself, We start from free, but that's not everything. When we talk about ESG and green development, the usage of plant-based materials, it is still no doubtedly to avoid the support on denim products as well as the textile provider. We still have a major choice to make. So we also have two other speakers, including Mr. Kang Jian from Vigatex, to share with us about a sustainable fabric made of plants. Denim is also an important topic, so later on we will have David Jing to share with us further details and topics later. When we should be able to have better understanding on the choice of textiles and the overall industrial development, exactly ESG in China. What is the difference between that approach to the global rights? And how in the future can we build up a more harmonious plan and strategies? So we have welcomed a very renowned experts in the field as well, Shen Yiran, curator of the contemporary art. And last but not least, we also have the Caring for Life Project Officer at ACT Asia. They will be sharing with us the white paper report of ACT Asia in the most in-depth and deepened formats. Let's continue to see how we will further develop ESG framework in the future. Now let's invite all of the attendees of the conference on the stage and let's take a photo together. Thank you very much, and please get to the stage. When we're getting set for the group photo taking, I also would like to have a quick talk with our organizer committee, our executive director, Dominic. The reason that we got a combination and great collaboration with the Shenzhen Fashion Week, it is a lot of help from Dominic in the past. Thank you very much. So let's move a bit to the left or on the stage and let's say hello to our cameraman. Thank you very much. Please kindly be seated. Now let's put our hands together to welcome the founder and co-founder of Relook, Madam Lexi Chen. The topic will be empowering youth, embracing ESG for sustainable leadership and consumer decision-making. Let's welcome Madam Lexi Chen. Thank you, introduction of the moderator, and thank you, invitation of the ACT Asia Organizing Committee. Dear friends, dear colleagues, good morning. Such a pleasure of me, upon the invitation, to share some topics about ESG and the youth empowerment. I'd like to introduce myself first. On this slide, probably you can tell I'm a very typical Generation Z. And I have been taking different job responsibilities. I was the Secretary General for the institution. I worked for a major IT company and a platform, and I have been a volunteer that providing voluntary services. When I got a chance to involve in different industries and the social aspects, I noticed that there's many young people who are really getting involved in the sustainable development related genres and topics, but they don't know how to get involved and be part of it and how to impact other people. In this exploration process, I joined Relook. We hope that we will continue to work with the people in the sustainability field. We want to provide more platforms and opportunities so that young leadership can be cumulative and educated in China. In around May in 2022, we figured out that a lot of enterprises started to focus on ESG, and in particular among those small-sized, medium-sized enterprises, they may approaching us actively to see if we can provide them any ESG-related curriculums or course design. Actually, we indeed have created a curriculum just for that purpose and based on the market demand. When more and more enterprises started to get more active in sustainability and green development, we have started to see a lot of new changes in the field. And for my presentation, I'd like to share with you four major changes that we have observed and the practices in the recent years.
本身其实企业去在看到这个 ESG 的这个趋势的时候，我们也同步的去做
When
了
the
一个
company
特
started
别著
to
名的
be
书的这种
taking more
读书会，
importance on
就是
ESG,
这个气候经
we
济人
organized
类
a
未来
lot
的
of
这样子的读
reading
书会，
clubs
其中有一
talking
个
about the climate
小
change
姑
and
娘
the
的一
future
个
of
读
the
书会，
human
其实让我
beings.
印象还挺深
There
刻
was
的。然
one
后她有写到
notebooks
就
taken
摘
by
抄这个
one
书
of our
里面的一句话， 就
participants.
是大概到2100年，其
By
实气候变化带来的这种致命性
2100,
已经是新冠病毒的5倍之多了。
climate change could
那
be
他
more
有
roughly
讲
5
到
times
说，
as deadly as
他没
the
有
new
想到气候变
coronavirus.
化带来的这些影响，其实跟他的日
All
常
of
生
those
活是紧密
impacts
相关
brought
的。
by
但
climate
是我们
change
其实
is
可以看得
actually
到，
highly
气候变
intimate
化
to
带
our
来
daily
的
life.
不仅仅是一个特别坏的结果，
Climate
其实
change
对
may
于
not
很多
only
主体来
bring
讲，它
some
也是
disastrous
成为
effects
了这些
and
主体去采
results.
取可持续行动的一个
It
警钟。
is also an
那
opportunity
尤
that we
其
connect
是在
upon
这
those
个社会里
challenges and
面，对
started
于
to make
环
something
境变
happen.
化可能非常敏感的一个主体企业，
Enterprises
很多
and
的企业就
businesses
越来
are
越多
very
的去
sensitive
想要意
to
识到
such
说
an
我要去
environment.
采取一
So
些
many businesses
可持续的这种转
realize
型
that the
了。
fact that
那
they
根
have
据
to
德
start
勤
the
的数据
transformation
提供显
process.
示呢，
According
1/3
to
的
the
企业
data
其实
from
已经
Deloitte,
把可持
one
续的
third
这
of
种
the
元素
enterprises
纳
had
入到自己
already
本身的
started to think
这个
about the
供应链的
sustainable
管理
related
当中。
factors
但
across
其
the
实
management
企
of their
业
supply
是
chain
想要
network.
去通过 ESG 这样子的一个手段，
With
在这种长
ESG
期的
as
经营
important
中去避
framework
免更
and
多的
tool,
风险，
the businesses
或
would
者
like to
是
avoid
获取更多更
major
长久的
challenges in
这
the long
种
term run.
发展的机遇
They
的。
are also willing to
但
enjoy a more sustainable
ESG 作为
development
一个
and
其
also to
实
grasp
起
a
源
more
于
developmental
这
opportunities.
个伦理投资的这样子的一个
ESG
分析工具而言，它在
actually
21世纪
was
初就
firstly
已经
mentioned at
被
the
国
beginning of
际的这
21st
个
century
企业管理领
by
域啊，或者
a
是
lot of
投资领域
enterprise
作为了非
management
常主
leadership
流的这样
teams,
子一个投资
and
的
it
策
is
略。
regarded
但
as
是
a
才在
strategy
近几
for
年可能
investment.
被我们这个国内
But
的企业
only
才
in the
关注
recent
和讨
years
论到
can
这
the
个
China
中心或者是
entrepreneurs
焦点的位置上。
started
那
to
大
think
湾
more
区
of
的
it.
这一些跟这个国际上
In
非
the
常
southern part of
接轨、非
China,
常紧密的一
across
些企
Shenzhen
业的
area,
这个表
and
现
in the
哈，
Greater
就
Bay
尤为的
Area,
明显了。那根
we
据
are
会方提
getting
供的
more
数据显
tightened
示，
connected
到
to
去
those
年的
related
大概
industry
第三季度
providers.
的这样子的时间节点，其
According
实整个大
to
湾区的 ESG 指数
certain
已
report,
经较3年前上升
by
了
the
大
end
概
of last year,
15%了。
the
与
index
此同时
regarding
呢，就是双
ESG
碳领
in
域
the
的这
Greater
个职
Bay
业发展
Area
的机
had
会也
increased
显
by
示出了激
15%,
增的这种状态。
and
预
there
计
is
到
also
2025
more
年吧，大概整个双
employees
碳行
working
业的
in the
从业
dual
者可能
carbon
会去到100万
industry.
这样子左
By
右。那
2025,
在
the
气候变
related
化、企业
personnel will
转
be
型
reaching
以及
almost 1
说
million who are
这
doing the
个
carbon
就业
business.
的这个机会激增的这种状态下，其
So
实我们
with
的企
ever
业伙
more
伴也在发生了一些
jobs
变化。
being
这
created,
组数据呢是
we
2020年
started to see
CYCEN 一
the
个关
proportionate
注
change as
青年
well.
气候行动的这样
This
子的
is
组
a
织，
special report
在针对咱们
for
全
the
国18到
young
24岁的大学生群
consumers
体做的
and
调研中发现的数据。
the young
然后大概84%
graduate
的
college
大学
students.
生伙伴
In
认为
this
气候变
survey,
化已经是一个
84%
非
of
常
them
严重的
thinks
程度
that
了。
climate change is
甚至
already
有
quite
60%
serious.
以上的伙伴
More
愿
than
意为此支付，
46%
就
of
是
them
为
are
保护环
willing
境去支付
to
更多的金钱，包
68%
括
of
去
them are
购
more than
买
willing to pay a higher price for
消费品
protecting the
啊，或者
environment,
是缴纳更多的税这
including
样。
the
但是
consumer
呢，在
goods
我
they
们
purchase and to pay more tax.
2023年针对整个大湾
But
区
with a
17到
relook,
35岁的这个伙伴们的这个调
based
研
on
中
the
却发
survey of
现，其实
2023 between 14 to
71% 以
35
上
years
的伙
old,
伴，
young
他在
generation,
采取这个可持续发展的行动，
71%
或者是
of
参与相
those
关的活
young
动中的时
people,
候呢，
when
它
they
并不
get
是因
involved in
为大环
sustainable
境的变
related
化，并不是
actions,
因为政
it
策
is
的导
not
向，也
due
不是
to the
因为就业
policy
机会的
guidance
增
or
多，
the
而是取决于
more
个
job
人的兴趣或者
job
是价值
titles.
观，还有责
It
任
is
感这些
depending
原
on
因。
their personal
那
interest,
与此
value
同时呢，
motivation and a sense of responsibility. More than 55% of the people thinks that it's actually quite a major cost of time and effort to participate in the related activities. If we compare the two sets of data from us and from other institutions, we didn't think the willingness of be sustainable is going reduced. On the other hand, we have started to see the shift of their role and how they expect certain action and events to become. I think all of us had to go through such a process of development. In the beginning, we started to be aware of certain topics in ESG, and
很多
then
的这一些
it
行动
becomes
当中，
a
然后接
selling
着
point
呢就会
and
在这个里面
become
可能
appealing
探
to
索更
us.
多的职业机
We
会，
started to
或者
explore
是
more
说
opportunities,
想要去
even
影响
find
更
your
多的
own
人。
career path,
但是就
and then
像这
started to
个金
try
字
to
塔结
advocate
构
more
一样
people.
在
But
顶
just
端
like the
这个拥
pyramid
有领
structure,
导力的这一
at the
些社会
most
层面的
top,
其实是
to
非
those
常
who
少数
actually
的
have
一些人
influential
群，
power,
那绝
it's
大多
only
数的
a
人群
minor
呢
group
还是集中
population.
在去原社
Most
交
of
者
the
的这个
people
状
are
态中。
still in
那
the
我们其
fun-loving
实作为这
socializer
个行业的
level.
从业者来说，我们其实非常希望
And
说
for
这
us,
个社
as
会
the
创业者
industry
的这个
player,
角色可
we
以变得越来越
expect to
多。
have more social
那
change maker
也就是因
instead
为
of
这样，
most
所以
of
我
them
们
are
可能
still
需要越
fun-loving
来越多的
socializer.
去原
For
社
this
交者和
purpose,
积极行
we
动者，
need
并且
to
帮他们
have
打
more
通这个身份转换的通
candidates
道，
pool of
才可以
fun-loving
让我们
socializer and
获得更
activists,
多的
and
社
we
会
want to
创业
create
者。 但是让我们觉得特
platforms
别
and
欣慰的
panels
是
for
说，
them to grow further
在这个过
to
程
the
中
top
啊，
of the
越来越
pyramids.
多关注可持续发展的品牌也好，组织也好，
Throughout this
是
process,
从我们的
more
伊始进
institutions
行各个
and
的
brands
方面，将这个可持续的理念
are
其实注
also
入到了我
trying
们青
to
年消费群
educate
体的这种
the
意识
definition of
当中。
sustainability to
举
all
几
the
个例
related
子，
social aspects. And I'd
国
like to
内
share
有一
with you a
个
few
专门做可持
examples.
续时尚的品
In
牌叫
China,
好
there
便，
is a brand
然后
called
他们呢
Hot
会将
Bottle.
这个塑料
Hot
瓶
Bottle.
还有海洋
What they
渔网的
do
这一
is
些制
to
作成非常
collect
有设
the
计感的
plastic
包袋，
bottles
或者
and
是 T 恤，
the
然
fishing
后去销
nets
售给我们的
to
年轻消费者。
recycle the
那年
products
轻的消
such
费
as
者在
t-shirts
选
and
择去
bags
购买
and
的时
sell
候，他
them
就
to
已
the
经
young
知道了，
generation.
说我身
When the
上
young
的这个
people
包
are
包，或者
purchasing
我身
those
上的这
products,
件
they
T
were
恤是通
already
过多少
aware
个
that the
塑料
t-shirt
瓶
I'm
来制
wearing
成
is
的。
made of how
那
many
与此
plastic
同时呢，
bottles
它的
or
很多
fishing
产品
nets.
其实带着天
A
然的
lot of
这种公益
products
慈
they
善的属
made
性，
had
也让我们年轻消费者
naturally
在选择的时
charity
候，让他的这个购买的
characteristics
这个
and
决策就
perimeters.
充满了社
So
会价值。
when people decided to
然
buy their
后
products,
穿
it
着
is
打扮可能
already
是
a
非常
behavior
令显
that
而易
with
见
the
的一
social
种可持续的
benefits.
选择，但其实饮食是最容
In
易被人
addition to the
忽略的那
textiles,
一种。饮
usually we
食事
neglect
实
how
上呢，就
food
是
may
食
have an
品的
impact
消
as
费
well.
其实是在
As a
很
matter of
多
fact,
城
the
市的这个
consumption of
碳足
food
迹中是最大的来源之
products
一。
are the
那
biggest source
与此
of
同时呢，就
carbon,
是关注这个可持续
at
食物
least
系
for
统
the
的有
city
一个小
environment.
组织叫食物小
This
站
is a small
PDT，
group called
他
PDT,
们就希
focusing
望
on
通过
sustainable
本地
food
的食
system
材啦、
transformation.
本地的餐厅
By
啦，
using
还有烹饪
localized
手法啦， 还
cafeteria
有这
and the
个
cooking
这个
methods,
饮
as
食
well
文
as the
化
raw
来去引
material
导我们
and
的
the
减
dietary
年轻的
habits,
消费
they
者
would
呢，
like
是
to
在饮
impact
食方
the
面做
young
出更加
consumers
可持
to
续的
make
这种
more
选择。
sustainable choices when
然
choosing
后
their
这个
food.
众所周知的宜家，其实都不用我说，他
And
们在家
another
居产
company
品的
which
设
is
计方
very
面，还有价格
famous, I
上
don't
面，
have
一
to
直都有
mention
一个
their
非常
name in terms of
领
their
先的这个
furniture
优势的地
designs
位。
and
但事
concepts,
实上呢，
always
就
in a
是宜
very
家
much
也把
leading
可持续
position.
发展的这
But
种理
even
念
in
注入到了整
ESG or
个供
sustainable
应链的管理
development
当
is a
中。
big part of their
也
supply
这
chain
也导致着
management.
他们的非常多的供
Uh,
应商选择
Many
了
of
做出
their
了很多
suppliers
ESG 的这
have
种行
also
动。那与此
have
同时，我们
chosen
看回烹饪
ESG
的大厂
related
里面，
way of
其实
operating
现在
their
宜家
business.
越来越多
Now,
的
if
卖
we
场
look
的产
into
品也会
their
通过强调自己有这个
IKEA's
绿生在绿
shopping
色再
floors,
生
you
材
could
质
see
的
a
这
lot
个
of those green
这个绿
materials
色
displays and the
绿色
leverage
再
of
生
such
材质的这种
materials
材料的这个
to
产品，来
advocate
引导我们的
that
青
more
年消费者进行
sustainable
一些选
development and
择。
also guide the young
那最后我们
consumers to
来
make
讲一
such
下
choices.
可持续出行。
Now, let's
在
talk
可持续
about
出行的这
sustainable
个环节里
mobility.
面呢，其实很多人
In
讨论
this
的想到的其
environment,
实是
and
这
many
个
people
可持
could
续
think
的
about
交
let's
通工具，新能源
go
的交通
with
工具。但事实上，我
sustainable
们在旅行中做的很
transportation
多的消费
tools
决策，
like new
都会
energy
影响我们
vehicles,
旅
but
行
there are
中
quite
的
a
这
lot
个
of
体
other
验和发
options
展。
which would
例如说，我们可
engage
以
or involve
少
with the
去这个游乐
sustainable
景点
development
的这
of the
些
tourism
打工动物进行
attraction.
互
For
动。
example, let's engage less and have less interactions with those working animals when you are on a tour. And there could be other more sustainable practices. We would like to ask more people to do that and to turn them from those fun-loving social communicators and to become some real practitioners, and along the way to be better in terms of to be empowered in creativities or their influences, or even bring back those concepts into their own companies and promote more ESG works. In 2021, we worked together with Cycle Hack and organized a sustainable cycling service design workshop. And we want all of them to be able to join to ask this question: how can an ordinary youth promote sustainable cycling in Shenzhen? Well, after 9 hours of training in our workshop, a lot of our partners, with the help of our design concept, have developed such sustainable cycling patterns and the solution. One of the team used the PowerPoint slides to display a very complete solution that they are going to have this concept of a new app which to support more sustainable cycling. And apart from that, we have also been working together with other partners to build the Nanyuan Green Cloud Youth Sustainable Community. This is a co-creation program, and we've selected a very large in-city village, the Nanyuan village, and together with 10 partners, and we did that renovation of the green garden on the top of that building and invited many of our youth partners to discover are there any other possibilities of it to provide more functions but in a very green way. It also followed with the previously shown 4A sustainable youth planning, and you can see from this that it really have attracted many youth people to join this local community. And then the next step is that we provide them with those handicrafting workshops so that they could all join. And among those ones that they participated the most, and we give them further trainings and empowerment and to co-build this garden. And there had been some initial renovations, as you could see here, to make this co-built garden more suitable to the local youth expectations and needs. And then with their help, we've also invited many local residents to organize an annual garden conference in this garden. Well, since the very beginning of this project, it's been just a year, and the in-town village also had undergone some COVID-related lockdowns. Yet still, you can see how we've been promoting sustainable works and ESG relevant works step by step. Now, looking back, you can see we've tried with many diversified actions. And apart from that, it also is a way of building new communication bridges between companies and the young consumers. And now, looking back on these young partners, the younger generation has such a group of people who are always seeing new things frequently, and they have their influence in terms of promoting many companies' ESG, or even pushing, or even becoming an ESG leader, or even to create an enterprises that are more ESG focused. And we can find that those companies who have already made such transformations have got a lot of similarities with the younger generation practitioners of ESGs. Whenever they face new problems and challenges, they always seek for new answers and solutions, and they could always shed some light, at least on solving the problems. And the back at the fundamental logic of that, probably because they are the same with us. They are realistic idealists in this world looking for sustainability. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chen-Xi, Lexi, for bringing us the perspective of a relook, how empowering the youth and embracing ESG for sustainable leadership and consumer decision making. That is a process we can promote gradually, step by step, just like how our forum has been working on to share with you a bit of what we have done, just like the cases Lexi Chen have shown you, not very posh, not very highly advanced and classy, starting from those villages in town, but those are real cases that young people could do from their own to contribute to the general course of ESG, and they can bring it back to the companies they work, and it influences on every bit of consumption decision they make as well. Now let's come back to another big part of the development of the fashion industry. Let's talk about animal and the plant-based materials first. Later, we're going to hear more about denim. Now let's give the floor to the founder of Vegatex, Mr. Kang Jian, to talk about sustainable fabrics for a green future of fashion. Well, dear all, good morning. Today, I will be talking about how our sustainable fabrics can support a green future of fashion. This is the world leading plant-based leather, leading by a large margin. Well, basically, our raw materials are the large amount of waste from the beverage industry. For example, fruit juice residue and beer barley residues. Those are our raw materials, and we use them to produce fiber, textiles, and most importantly, our plant-based leather. Our process core technology have already applied for our global property, intellectual property rights, and we applied for the global invention patents, and now is being processed in Hong Kong. Here you could see several different kinds of our raw materials. The apple, after making apple juices, you have such residues, and similarly with orange, lemon, and the brewer's spent grain. But here you see it, the lemon powders are obviously wider than the others. When we try to make plant-based leather, if from raw materials derived from apple and orange, they're all very dark color leather. And all we could do is to use lemon to produce white and shallow colored plant-based leather. Well, later I'll mention more about this slide, so now let's skip it. This is our core technology and a process. We recycle the apple skin and other wastes and residues from juice factories, and then we use some processes to do the cleaning, drying, and then use biomass conversion procedure and mix it with waterborne polyurethane as well as the nanofiber so that we can make it into a sort of artificial textiles. And then the next process are going to be the surface treatment. Mix it with the nanofiber. While previously we've already mixed it with 100% bio-based yarn. And then it's the pigmented coloring, coagulation needed, and then deboss customized texture on the surface. And eventually we have our plant-based leather. And when we produce that, you can smell that very pleasant scent of apple on our production line, rather than those traditional leather making production lines. You know, there are very toxic pollutants involved in the process, but not with our production line. And whenever if we were to use barley dregs or oat dregs food, it also smells very good, just like a bakery or a beer shop. However, with the barley dregs, the process would be a bit different, as we have to abstract the protein from it. First, the protein could be used in many other ways, and thus we have to abstract them first and sell them independently, while the food industry have a diversified application for protein, and the rest of the residue are going to enter our production line of the plant-based leather processing. Well, this is what I mentioned, the fruit fiber, wood fiber mixture, 100% bio-based. This is basically like the base layer of that artificial plant-based leather. And on the surface of it, we have another PU and the PU mixture surface fabric. So this is the surface fabric, the plant-based leather finish. And now you can see when our product Vegatex is being applied into real products, they look just very nice, and just like in all those application scenarios. such as in bags and suitcases, apparel, furnitures. Well, however, right now for automotive seats, we're still doing some R&Ds. It was pretty difficult. Still doing R&Ds right now and hoping for some breakthroughs. And for shoes, it's also a bit difficult as well because the frequent folding would cause the life expectancy of the product to be lower as well. Now, let's see the value of an apple in our Vega, Texas process. Well, we consume the raw material, the residue from millions of apples after juicing, and our process would be pretty complicated as well. Of course, the more material we use, that means more residue are going to be consumed, and the more apple juice were there produced from our upstream. Well, let me talk about some of our product features and highlights. The advantages of our raw material is high because we know that the fruits industries have got some seasonality. Right now, they have a lot of harvesting, but the juice making will stop by February next year. February. Apple, lemon. However, whenever they start making juice, the volume would be so huge. In each of the factory, the residue would amount to 500,000 to 1 million tons per day. And that is such a huge output. And let alone the beer drags, barley drags, also in very large volume. And right now, our plant-based leather, the plant bio-based content would be 66%. That is certified by the USDA. And our better version can now reach even above 70%. And also there are good physical properties, non-toxic and odorless. We have finished the REACH compliance test. And this is a full utilization of the waste residue, completely no more residues. And here are several compliance standards that we do test from time to time. And these are the patents that we have applied. We applied that in Hong Kong, originally where our company was based, and the Hong Kong government is now funding us to apply for patents across the whole globe. And as for patent, it takes a long time to process. And here you see the PETA certification from the USDA, 66%. On the right side, you can see that is a certificate and we can make it onto our product label. For example, if you are a garment maker and you would like to source from us, you can quote this label. And on the right side, you see how the PETA UK have given us that certification. And this is the SGS testing report. Whenever we have a new product developed, we do such reports. I mean, the evaluations and the tests, the physical tests, the REACH standard and the VOC, volatile organic compound, which is very important with automotive seats if they were to source from our plant-based leather. And because it's a very closed compartment in vehicles, well, we'd have to control this very well. Here you can see that on the slide, it says we have signed a confidentiality agreement with 3 famous OEMs, but actually there are above 10 already. BMW, Hyundai, and many Japanese joint ventures, helping them to develop plant-based leather to be used in their interiors of their vehicles. And here you can see some other commercial cases of ours, as our collaboration with Xiaomi is already going on right now. Millions of their smartphones, the back panel were made of our plant-based leather. And we're now trying very well to use barley drags for Xiaomi, and then in the future maybe we're going to collaborate with Apple as well, so that iPhone, if they were to use our plant-based leather, we're going to offer them our products derived from the raw material of apple juice residues, etc. And we have got many other collaborators and brands that we cooperate with. On the right side, as you see their logos, some of those are still now in the process of making pilot projects or making samples. Last year, we have worked together with MTG and participated in a Budweiser competition and acquired the first prize, and was recently being displayed at the New York and the London fashion shows. Also, part of their collections are going to be exhibited here this week as well. And previously, as I said, with Xiaomi, we use barley drags provided by Budweiser. And we've been collaborating with more than just one beer manufacturer, also with Xuehua Snow. They have a lot of other developments and businesses, because for Huarun, they have got such a big portfolio of their business, including making apparels and shoes for their own employees, and they could use our product as well. Now, at the end of my presentation, I have a video to show you describing the collaboration between us and Budweiser.
维格斯是一种创新且高度可持续发展的混合型植物基皮革。在不断的技术革新中，维格斯将酿造啤酒后所产生的酒糟，也纳入了像水果榨汁后的残渣等植物基材料之列，怀揣共同的环保碳中和理念与愿景。维格斯与百威中国达成合作协议，回收百威中国工厂的酒糟，利用维格斯现有及正在申请的专利技术，首先萃取酒糟里的食品级植物蛋白，然后将剩余残渣和水性 PU 混合，将其制成利于环保的各类皮革产品。这种植物基皮革通过了保护动物组织 PETA 以及美国农业部 USDA 的认证，减少了对动物皮革以及塑胶材料的使用，还减少了对不可再生的石油基化学品的需求。而植物基材料皮革的可塑性和延展性不输于其他皮革制品，在碳排放控制、动物保护、安全性等环保维度也远胜其他皮革材料。维格斯展望未来，引领革命。
好，谢谢大家。
谢谢
Thank you very much for listening, and thank you, Mr. Kang Jin, for your sharing. The story that shared with us actually is very close to our life. Most of the source of plants are usually skin, so you must be wonder what exactly the appearance of a plant-based leather looks like. I actually was trying to get dressed up, but in the end, I still selected the leather dress, because the leather dress I'm wearing is actually made of the plant-based material. Mr. Kang and Vigatex, as well as MTG, and the dress I'm wearing today is from our independent designer, Shujust Studio. It is also the FFR Repellery program and the Act Asia program. We are not only telling people not to use fur, we are also encouraging people to develop more innovative material sources in order to make more innovative products. So this is just a very quick demonstration. Later on in the exhibits, you will be able to feel that yourself. When we are making the choice of consumption now, there's actually plant-based products in the market already. Talking about the sustainable fashion, when you open your wardrobe every day, denim is actually unavoidable. We're trying to be sustainable, but denim seems like the very big pollutant. Should I continue to purchase denim any further? Regarding the color process of denim, can I continuously support the sustainability with a more accepted way? Now, I want to invite the founder and head of the Magic Denim Consultancy, Mr. David Chin. Mr. David Chin, please on the stage, and he will be sharing with us sustainable denim education in Asia Pacific.
你们好，我是David, and that's the only Chinese we'll have, I'm sorry. And for everybody else, the international visitors, my name's David. I'm from the magic of denim, and today I'm going to be talking to you about preparing the next generation for a responsible denim industry. Before I do that, I just want to say how fantastic that last presentation was. Fei Chang Hao, you should be very proud of Vegatex. Really amazing things you're doing. Well done. Having some, there we go. Okay, yeah, so my company is called The Magic of Denim. We are really at the junction of where the denim industry, education come together, and we focus on education around sustainability. We do that across Asia Pacific, working in several countries, and we're very proud to be part of the United Nations Conscious Fashion and Lifestyle Network. Before I talk too much about the work that we're doing, let me give you a little bit of my background so you understand where my passions come from, why sustainability is important to me. I was very fortunate in my career that I was working for H&M, the Swedish fashion retailer, in their head office in Stockholm, in Sweden. And I was fortunate for many reasons, actually, but one of them was I had really good mentors, people that would teach me the industry. I actually came to China the first time at the end of the 80s and the beginning of the 90s, and I got taught here in China what factories did, how fabric was made, how buttons are made, how we make zips, the whole industry. So having good mentors, I think, is really important to people's careers. I'm probably best known for the work I do with denim. I joined the VF Corporation in 1998, and I was the product director for the Wrangler brand in Europe from 1998 to 2006, and we did a lot of really interesting work there. I moved to Hong Kong in 2006, and really that's been my home ever since. I did live in Shanghai for 3 years as well. And up on the picture, you can see my lovely dogs. Sorry, they are in every presentation I make. These two dogs, this is Bubble and Captain, they are rescue dogs. And I think it's one of the best decisions my wife, who's in the picture and here today, ever made. If you rescue a dog, you're not just rescuing the dog, you're rescuing yourself because you get so much love given back. So we are very big supporters of ACT Asia and all the other organizations around Asia that are caring for animals and doing animal welfare. Most of my time in Asia has been spent with the Lee jeans brand, which we took to be the #1 jeans brand in China on market share. I was the vice president since 2006. I think we won in China by making sure we localized everything for the Chinese consumer. So we had a full 40 designers in Hong Kong just creating for China. We had a marketing team in Shanghai creating for China and a very strong merchandising team. We also did a lot of innovation, and I'm very proud with my design team that together with myself, we held 3 patents on how to design jeans, particularly for the Asian body type. And getting a patent in clothing today is one of the most difficult things you can do. So I think the team did a really good job there. I've been skateboarding since 1975. Skateboarding is really important to me, but I'm not going to talk a lot about that today, but it's very fundamental in the person that I am. If you have access to YouTube, I know many people don't, but there's a few videos on there of me talking about how skateboarding inspired me and how it's connected to creativity and design. And you find a lot of creative and designers are actually skateboarders as well. I retired from the Lee Corporation in 1.5 years ago because I really wanted to focus on education. Working with young people, I think, is really, really important. Working with teams is something I'm very passionate about. I've always led international teams, and how we come together, how we can build ideas together. I think there's strength when you have people from diverse backgrounds working together on ideas. And that naturally led me into education, which is what I'm focused on today, with a very big focus on the sustainability goals from the United Nations with the Conscious Fashion and Lifestyle Network. So let's get a little deeper. Actually, that is me. Sorry about that. I started my career actually selling jeans in an army surplus store, a small corner store in 1975 when I was 15. So I've seen every part of our industry, whether that's people working in the factory floor, the shop floor, all the way through to the mills and all of the different levels that this industry brings. And I think that background has enabled me to see all sides and to really care about the whole industry rather than just one single piece. My sustainability journey started in 1989 while I was at H&M. I wrote a report called The Green Planet for H&M, and I presented it. I thought sustainability was just something everybody would care about and do. I presented it to the buying director at H&M in 1989. The guy loved me, but on this occasion he threw me out the office and told me this was just politics and the company shouldn't be getting involved in it. But we changed his mind, and by 1992, we launched one of the world's first sustainable collections by a fast fashion company called Eco Cotton in coordination with the Worldwide Fund for Nature. So I feel very strongly that if you work hard enough and you have the ideas and you can format them correctly, make a good presentation, not the one I made, you stand a very good chance of succeeding, and it is possible. This picture on the right, so we're here at Shenzhen 2023 Fashion Week. This is Fashion Week in London last year, 2022, and these are young people campaigning to the fashion industry, saying that there is a climate emergency and the fashion industry, as one of the world's biggest polluters, is not doing enough. And actually, this young lady here is my niece. This is Samantha, somebody I'm very, very proud of. If you'd told me back in 1989 that we would still be having to convince people that we have a climate emergency and that we need to do our work in a cleaner and a more sustainable way, I wouldn't have believed you. But this is where we are, and we need to start making the changes, and I think doing that with young people is a great place to start. Sustainability as a word is very misused, and it's very hard to understand really what sustainability means anymore. There's so much greenwashing. When you go into the stores, you have all these hang tags. They all claim to be green, sustainable, blah, blah, blah. And quite often they're not. So I always go back to the original definition of sustainability, which came from the United Nations in 1987. It came from something called the Brundtland Commission. And it's quite easy, actually. They say sustainability is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So breaking that down, meeting the needs of the present, that means living the lives we want to live, having the goods we want to have, but not using up all the resources that are available in the world that won't be available to future generations if we use it all up now. And those future generations we're talking about are actually your children, your brothers and sisters, the young people that are in education today, the young people that are going into your companies in the next couple of years. And they care passionately about the future and about the world we're creating, because they're the ones that are going to have to live in it, obviously. The magic of denim, we focus on 4 of the SDGs, or the sustainability goals, in the work that we do. Obviously, number 4 is quality of education, which is the absolute key to what the work we do. But I think as I widen that up into the denim industry and what I need to work with students, number 6, 9, and 12, I really focus in on, because in the denim industry, we are very big users of water, as I'll showcase in a second. And water is so much a rare source these days. You know, we're living in Asia. We are really running out of some of these resources. When we look at the environmental impact of the denim industry, we can see that for every pair of jeans that's made, it takes nearly 34 kilos of carbon. We use 3,781 liters of water for every jean that's in the production. Now that includes the growing of the cotton, but there are many ways to overcome this, working with fabrics like hemp, which I'm wearing today, which require almost no water, no chemicals to grow, and it's a crop that actually grows in areas where many other crops don't grow. And then as an industry, the whole fashion industry, we throw 20 billion garments into landfill every year, which should be a crime in my mind. The amount of water it takes to make one jean is equal to the water consumption of one person for 13 years. So everything we can do to reduce water consumption, and not just in jeans, this is applicable to most garments because of the amount of water for the growing of the cotton and the dyeing particularly. In Hong Kong, my home, we throw away 200 garments every 10 seconds into landfill. That's 72,000 garments a year. And we probably think it's good, you know, we just throw it away and it ends up in landfill, we're fine. But once things are in landfill, they don't biodegrade because they aren't getting access to oxygen, for example, which is needed to biodegrade products. This picture on the far left is a good example. This is a jean that was found in North Carolina in America. It had been left in a field for 10 years. And what you can see here is that all of the cotton has biodegraded and gone away. Cotton biodegrades in just over a year. But what you have here is all the man-made fibers left. The polyester, the stretch fabrics, the buttons, the labels, the stitching thread, the zips, and all the other components that we put into making a product. We really need to move away from man-made fibers and into biodegradable as quickly as we can. To do this, we really need to focus, I think, around the design stage. 80% of the decisions that get made impacting the environmental impact of a product happen at the design stage. So educating the designers and everybody else that's involved in that stage on how to choose the right fabrics and the more, you know, maybe we should be using the leather products that we were looking at earlier. If we can teach designers about these earlier on, they can make the right decisions. My initiative for the United Nations is about sustainable denim education in Asia Pacific. We promote, teach, and advocate denim sustainability and circularity within the APAC region. We do that by partnering with schools, universities, NGOs, design organizations, and importantly, some of the world's biggest denim companies. I am not an expert on every area, but the great thing is whatever program we put together, whether this is for high school or whether it's for university or whether it's for BA, we can bring experts in and tailor programs for the students at the right level. These are the partners that I mainly work with. I'll highlight Advanced Denim. Advanced Denim are a Chinese company. They are China's oldest mill, denim mill actually, but they're also one of the world's most advanced mills when it comes to finding solutions for sustainable dyeing, sustainable weaving, and using new fibers such as hemp and tencel and fibers like this. Also do a lot with Cone Denim, who are the world's oldest denim company. They're from America. Crystal International in Hong Kong, one of the biggest manufacturers of denim, and Genealogia, who focus on washing. They've actually got a process for washing jeans with no water, and all of the finishes and looks we create. We used to do this with a lot of chemicals and handwork. Today we do all of that with laser, and they are the world's champion at how to use lasers. Here's a couple of pictures. So today I'm a visiting fellow at the Hong Kong Design Institute, where we do a lot of work around denim. I work with the MA students at the Hong Kong Poly U, the university there. Sri Lanka, I've done some work with the Institute of Technology, and I'm really happy with the Indenium School of Responsible Design in India, where I'm a mentor and a lecturer, and we teach the original handcraft ways of how to dye with plant-based indigo. And it's just a joy to work with young people. Here they are at Advanced Denim. This is a blanket of denim that's already got a laser pattern on it to show the different levels of how lasers work, so that they can already make the right decision at this stage rather than making that decision once they've made the jeans, and can be more sustainable in the process. Here they are at Genealogia. I know with young people when I've got their attention, when I'm showing them something interesting, because everybody gets their phone out and starts filming it. That's one of the great things now, when you can really see when people are engaged and when they're not. And here they were learning about how to use a laser and how to personalize and bring products to life with whatever creativity they so choose. Here we are in India dyeing some indigo fabrics. And at Lensing, who have a development center in Hong Kong and put out their experts with us for half a day to teach the students. So industry is really interested in working with young people and supporting these types of initiatives. Nobody ever says no when I go to them and say, can you help me with this project? So I think there's a lot we can do to bring industry and education together. This is some of my students, my first ones actually, and the work that they created as part of a competition. So I used to be when I was younger, I was very inspired by older people. Today, when I'm older, I'm really inspired by younger people. I think young people have got to live in this world. They have great values today. You know, my generation has done so much damage to this planet, and I'm hoping, we all hope, I think, that this next generation can do a better job than we did. The denim industry globally is predicted to be about $85 billion by 2027. It employs here in the GBA over 250,000 people, so it's a really big employer. So when I found out there was almost no education around denim specifically, that was one of the reasons I started to put this initiative together. Because I really think preparing the next generation to be part of a responsible denim industry, I believe is a critical priority for all of us. That's the sweet spot for me, where we can bring the denim industry and education together and work on sustainability around Asia, and I hope to bring that further into the GBA later, probably next year. Thank you. 谢谢.
Thank you, David. 我觉得今天我们听到的应该是很对大家具有启发性。
Well, I think everything we've heard today is very inspirational to all of us. We all know that denim is damaging to the environment, but seeing those numbers, we know how much damage it actually does. We always talk about sustainability, but we always talk about sustainability after what damage had already been caused. But as he said, 80% of the reduction of pollution could actually be saved during the designing phase. And also something more different, we heard David's passion towards education and sustainability. Why we hold this whole forum today here, and we value each one of you joining this forum, because along the road of ESG, everyone is exploring. We all support each other. It's not like we are all experts of our own fields, but we can offer what we do know and communicate with the others. Also, because of such sharing and educate and influence the others, just like what ACT Asia has always been doing, using compassion, using critical thinking, responsible choices that we make to push in every aspect of the social society, and people could live in harmony with animals. Similar to what David have talked about. He saw there's a lack in the denim industry and he would like to do more about it. And probably that is why there are only 4 organizations certified by the UN in terms of sustainability certifications. There are only 4, and we and denim from David is another one. And from David, we also heard another thing that the young consumers, the young people really have very direct responses. When company cares about ESG, they always try to strike a balance between profits and ESG. Well, for an enterprise, their customers, their consumers could also take part in promoting the company's ESG. And if a company could work better on ESG in terms of their supply chain, that will be very beneficial to let everyone, including a lot of young people along the chain, to be influenced. So the next topic is going to be quite different than before, a pretty more series cases to be discussed, a very artistic and sustainability level of discussion. We're going to hear from a curator of contemporary art, of cultural heritage and social sustainability, Ms. Shen Yiren, to talk about social sustainability in the global fashion industry. Ms. Shen, please. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Today, what I'm going to share with you about is the social sustainability in global fashion industry. Whenever we speak about sustainable development, we have to talk about this great woman, Brand. In 1969, he graduated from Harvard University, and when she was 35 years old, he was appointed by Norway as the Minister of Environmental Protection and became the first Prime Minister of Norway who is a woman since 1981. After the World War, in order to reshape the global order, she took the responsibility to lead the Environmental Protection Program of the United Nations to initiate a guideline to bring every country together. So on 1978 of UN conference, after 3 years of consideration and a discussion, she finally talked about what is to be defined as sustainable development. According to that definition, it means meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In the past 35 years, this definition have changed to some extent. For example, the dual carbon footprint that we hear quite a lot nowadays, and we have seen the ESG reports being issued. However, apart from environment and governance, actually sustainable development involves something more, including the social sustainable development, and that is hard to be quantified and pretty blurred. So today I will be talking about 3 developing countries examples to talk about how social sustainability are being applied. 2 cases came from my previous colleague, Ursula and Joanna, respectively, happened in Brazil and Kenya. And the third one case is a Chinese project overseas that I participated on myself. First of all, let's take a look at this breakdown of costs of a t-shirt, the business model. This is published by Clean Clothes Campaign. You can see that 80% of the cost were actually on the retail end, but the real pay to worker is only 0.6% of the entire retail price of this t-shirt. And we do know that kind of cheap labor is not the only problem in the fashion industry. In 2013, people started to pay attention to the labor working conditions in the fashion industry because in Bangladesh, a 8-story textile garment factory collapsed, which took a toll of 1,200 deaths. And that was one of the biggest industrial accidents in Bangladesh and also one most dire one in the industry of fashion. So Osola, a designer in the UK, started an initiative called Who Made Your Clothes and started the Fashion Revolution, a public interest organization. By asking such questions, she wanted to let the whole supply chain of the fashion industry to become more transparent and to connect the consumers and the manufacturers to build more trust. Such fashion campaigns have also established across the whole globe. And there was a special cabinet in Sao Paulo in Brazil. You see this very special one. The pedestrians would stop because they see a very cheap price. However, when they get into the exhibition hall, they're not going to be seeing those clothes, but seeing those real situations on how the workers have been working there behind those cheap clothes. Well, such kind of campaigns have caused a lot of social influences there in Brazil. The Sustainable Development Organization there, together with some colleges, 11 colleges, and published a documentary called the cost of it to help local students to understand what was behind the fashion industry. Also, they've encouraged the students to be using all kind of wasted clothes to make those signs and bring it to the streets. Well, if we say the Osola's fashion revolution is a top-down advocacy, well, then the so-called Kenya at East Africa is something that we can start from another perspective, starting from small. Well, in Kenya, Eastern Africa, Joanna have initiated this sustainable factory. The lady in the middle of this picture from a middle-class family in the UK is Joanna. She had been very interested in designing the whole fashion industry and what was behind the supply chain. And when she was making researches, she found out that there are lots of injustices and unfair phenomena. Also, as independent designers, they don't have that many orders. They cannot find adequate factories to work for them. So in 2019, she moved to Kenya and started working in Soko, Kenya. This sustainable factory to offer more employment, but organized in a very sustainable way. We know that in the past years, many garment factories have been shifted from China to Africa. This is a double-bladed sword. On one hand, it offers quite a lot of employment and GDP growth there, but on the other contrary, it also causes some panic there because the invasion of such fast fashion industry could easily wipe out the ethnical traits of the African culture there locally. So Joanna, with her so-called Kenya, wanted to retain that African element in their garment. Now that they have got more than 150 employees, 80% of them are female, and there are three perspectives on which they focus on developing social responsibility. The first one is to help people get better economic revenue and financial know-hows. Well, speaking about minimum wages, that is not a very new, that is not a very novel concept. People say that in New Jersey, if you wish to bring your kids to school to have a proper medical care, your hourly pay should be around 45 US dollars. However, the minimum wage given by the New Jersey government in the United States is just 14.13 US dollars. And Joanna, when she moved to Kenya, the first thing she does is to consider the distance between this designated factory place and its distance to the local port, local school, local water sources, etc., to calculate how much wages she could pay those workers. And a lot of these workers have never worked full time. Many of them didn't even have a bank account. So the factory gives them that kind of training, apart from helping them establishing banking accounts, also helping them to apply for loans and make financial budget for their whole career and whole life. Also, it offers local-based, community-based skill trainings. This factory is still pretty distanced from urban cities, but the whole team decided that they're not going to hire anyone from the nearby big cities, but to hire the local residents. So they all organized a local community trust and offered Academy of Sewing to provide skill trainings. Every year, they would enroll students at the number of 300. Well, they received 300 applications and would enroll 90 of them, and 78 of those graduated would find a job or start their own business. This factory or the whole initiative also have helped with the popularization of medical facilities and menstruation-related know-hows. They've got medical professionals for the factory to educate the people there about AIDS and other infectious diseases. So some people ask Joanna said that I wish I had knew this earlier. In Kenya, every year there are millions of young people or the female they cannot pay for the price of menstruation product that they have to leave school and would have to discontinue their studies, which is something Joanna wished to solve as well. They've established this Kujua initiative. Kujua in the Swahili language that the local people use meant gaining knowledge. And a great thing for them that 2001, the first lady, Michelle Obama of the United States, had been wearing some African-made, so-called Kenya-made clothes. Well, such social organizations and women's welfare projects have also been going on here in China. And now I would like to talk about Nazi Nazi. This one I had personally been involved. Focused on those textile workers in Dulong, along Dulong River, and with the Shanghai and the Beijing modern art found support. They've started to develop a series of clothes that can be used in many application scenarios as well as other products. Well, I think this carpet textile competition is the most interesting. It was held once a year because normally those textile woven workers simply work on whatever the designers told them. But with this competition, they can do the design on their own. And every year they were exhibited in Shanghai and got voted by the public. And whoever gets the highest vote will be made in a mass production big scale. So from this, we can see the Dulong River, a lot of the Seneca beauties were inspiring to those textile workers. And we've went on a exhibited tour across many countries for Nazi Nazi. The first stop was in Bergen in Norway. Second one was in Amsterdam, Netherlands. You could see that we've used the rainbow-like textile representing the timeline to represent the whole time frame of the project. The third stop was in Helsinki in Finland, and then we joined the Fabrica X Handicraft Week and participated in this dialogue with the founder of BioFlop, which is a 100% plant-based leather company, plant-based fur company. And those projects have been covered by a lot of state medias, including Xinhua News Agency, the Financial Times. You can see this picture. It was on the front page of Financial Times. And we brought one of the carpet to the mayor of London, Mr. Sadikan, and now it was hung in his office in London. And back to Brundtland. In order to reshape social order, she mentioned the concept of sustainability. But like Professor Callie Burton at Harvard University also mentioned, everyone now must have some new understanding about sustainability and try to seek its truth and significance. We have a lot of people really being the practitioner of sustainability. And my personal understanding is that it's a common ground that people could share and a mutual objective through which all lives join forces for long-term growth. At the end of my presentation, I also have a question for all of you. Combining the context of your life or facing your customers and the downstream, what's the definition of long-term and sustainable development in your mind? Thank you.
我们非常谢谢我们如果亲切一点就称呼伊人，也很谢谢我们沈老师带给我们其实是非常有启发性的思考。我们看到的就像我们为什么说包含在我们的课程里谈
and enlighten us with a lot of new thoughts. So Free is only the starting point, and that's only the beginning. We need to collaborate to reshape the communication between the animal, the human beings, the earth, and all of the production cycles. We have to be innovative in all different cycles to be sustainable. So why are we talking about the compassionate-based consumption? As I've mentioned in the last presentation, each one of us should be acting our own role based on your understanding to sustainability. So I think we should rethink on those questions and check again. Like SDG 17 have been mentioning, we collaborate for the joint purpose. So the compassion-based consumption mindset can be a handshake to enable future sustainability. We can have a diversified development, but with different approach to achieve the same goal and targets. So we have to act now. And each chain is fragmented, and we have to join hands together in order to achieve the future development. The last speaker of the day will be joining us from online. who will also be sharing with us the new topic. And let's go back to Free to ESG action plans. ESG is a whole framework. We talk about responsibility, we talk about the social governance and the enterprise governance. From Free to ESG, we can use that as a handler. After we have been talking about the Free for so many years, it is time that we move to a new chapter. And what about the current condition for Free after so many years? I'd like to invite the caring for Lift Project Officer at ActAsia, who is also our liaison officer for compassion consumption, Joy Li, to give us a talk on ActAsia's research for fur industry and the consumer trends based on the survey. Welcome, Joy.
Right. Good morning and thank you. Can I just double check that you can hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Kayla, and good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased that I can be here today to talk to you about ActAsia's fur consumer research work. Fur Free has been ActAsia's priority campaign in China for quite some years now. And as part of this campaign, we do extensive research work broken down into two parts. One part focuses on the fur industry, in which we look at production, such as fur farming. We also look at retail and sales and consumption. And we have published a number of reports on the state of the Chinese fur industry, which can be found on ActAsia's website. But the second part of our research focuses on the fur consumers. And these are our fur consumer surveys, which I am here to talk to you about today. So in 2018, ActAsia decided to standardize our fur consumer market research. And we began to implement fur consumer market research consistently for every 2 years. And as you will see, the first round of surveys were conducted in December 2018. We repeated the same surveys with the same questions in April 2020, and then again in December 2022. So it's every 2 years. And through this, we are able to measure the changes in consumer attitudes, consumer preferences, and consumer behavior. For our fur consumer survey, our sample size is 1,000 fur consumers. And in addition to that, we also surveyed over 4,000 non-fur consumers as well on their attitudes and opinions on the fur industry and also fur consumption. So as you will see that in terms of our sample size and our demographic, it is our samples are comprised of women of age 18 and above. And we focus on the 6 main cities in China, which is Shanghai, Shenzhen, Beijing, Chengdu, Dalian, and Wuhan. And what we found, one of the key things that we come to learn through this is that while we can talk about fur on clothing or fur coats, fur on shoes, between 50 to 60% of consumers do not identify ornaments and accessories as fur products. And you see here on picture number 3 and number 6, these keychains or adornments. And many of the consumers do not actually recognize these as being made of fur. And that's one of the key findings that we will be looking to address in our work. We also found between 2018 and 2022 that there are 4 types of fur most commonly purchased by fur consumers. The most popular is mink. And as you can see from 2018, over 83% of the fur consumers purchased mink fur. The second most popular is fox. And in third and fourth place is raccoon dog and rabbit. And while previously rabbit had been more popular, raccoon dog fur is now slowly gaining in popularity. We also found between 2018 and 2022 that there are three main channels where consumers purchase their fur products. In 2018 and 2022, you can see that the top three channels are the high-level boutiques, as well as specific shops in the fur city or fur streets, fur markets, and as well as department stores. However, in 2020, we did see an increase in the purchase of fur products with online retailers. And in fact, that became one of the three main purchase channels. And that could be understood in light of COVID, as there was a quarantine and much going out was restricted, and therefore purchasing consumption moved online. We were also aware that in 2020, as consumption moved online, that there were issues with the quality of fur and as well as customer service when purchased online. So it's not surprising in 2022 that when COVID pandemic is over, that the consumers move back to their usual channels of the high-level boutique stores, the fur city streets, and the department stores. In terms of the top three fur products that are preferred by the consumer, we started out in 2018 seeing that the full fur coat was the most popular. And second after that were accessories made with fur. And then in third place was coats with fur trim. However, in 2020, coats with fur trim became more popular, with accessories in second place, and then boots and shoes taking the third place. And most recently in 2022, accessories has now taken over the top place, with 48% of the consumers having purchased fur product accessories, with the coats with fur trim come in second place, and the full fur coat has made its way back to one of the top three positions. So we also then explored and asked the consumers, what are your top reasons for purchasing fur? And between 2020 and 2022, we found that the main three reasons for consumers to purchase fur remained the same. And so the most popular reason is functionality, that real fur is good for keeping warm. And in 2020, that was 85% of the respondents. And in 2022, that was 76% of the respondents. In addition, another reason to purchase fur is for its appearance, because the consumers think that real fur is beautiful. And another reason is that the texture and the feel of real fur is irreplaceable, so that it feels good, that it looks beautiful, and that it is good for keeping warm. So these are the top three reasons why fur consumers purchase fur. We also saw between 2020 and 2022 that there were some trends of the favorite fur products and fur consumption across the major cities in China. And the top row here is the 2020 results, where fur trim coats were the most popular, and fur accessories came in second place, and boots with fur came in third place. And then as I've shown in the previous slide in 2022, is the accessories that have taken first place, with the trim taking second place, and then the full fur coat coming back in third place. But what is really important and what I'd like to point out here is the fact that where these popular fur products are being purchased, we are seeing an increase in consumption in cities such as Wuhan, such as Chengdu and Shenzhen, where traditionally fur was always worn in the winter time to keep warm. And the industry started practically in the north, where it was cold and it was necessity in terms of the needs of the weather to stay warm. But now we're seeing that it has become very fashion driven, and fur is being worn and purchased. Consumption is very high in countries down in the south. And that would also explain why fur accessories and fur coat trims are becoming more and more popular, because it may be too hot to wear full fur coats. But in Wuhan, in Chengdu, in Beijing, in Shenzhen, even in Shanghai, that now people are buying more fur. And we also found in 2020 through 2022 that Shanghai as a city has the highest level of consumption of fur products. So looking at those reasons of why consumers purchase fur, we also ask consumers, the non-fur consumers, then why do you choose to not purchase fur? And one of the main reasons is that it's too hot to wear real fur. Another reason is that real fur may be too expensive. And we found that to be the main reason in 2020. And that could perhaps be due to COVID, as the economy shrunk and took a hit from the pandemic. Prices became a stronger consideration. So it was the main reason in 2020 for why consumers chose not to purchase fur. The other reasons are that instead of purchasing real fur, there are alternatives such as synthetic. And so they would purchase synthetic fur rather than real fur. And the other reason is that real fur is not practical. So it's not something that you can wear daily. It's not easily washable. And these are the top reasons why consumers choose not to purchase fur products. Between 2020 and 2022, what we have found is a notable change and a shift in consumer preferences. In 2020, we found that women aged 36 to age 40 preferred full fur coats and bought more fur products. In 2022, however, we found that the younger female consumers aged 26 to 30 prefer full fur coats over all other types of fur products. And in fact, this age group, 26 to 30, also had the strongest preference for full fur coats compared with the other age groups. In addition, we saw in 2020 that consumers under 30 tended to buy fur more for home decor. But in 2022, we noticed that the younger consumers aged 18 to 25 have been buying more fur trim coats and more boots and shoes lined with fur. And this is a very clear indication of change in consumption preferences between 2020 and 2022, that there is now a clear shift and a preference of young consumers choosing to buy fur products for fashion because they're interested in looking beautiful. And this is driving the sale of more fur trim coats and the sale of fur accessories in places, in cities where it's too hot to wear full fur coats, but as well where we are seeing this trend clearly now in 2022. As part of our market research, we also asked the consumers what they think about the fur industry. So overall, between 2020 and 2022, we found that both fur consumers and non-fur consumers have high awareness of the impact of fur. Majority recognizes that the use of real fur causes pain to animals. The majority recognizes that the use of real fur causes harm to the environment. In terms of the use of real fur causing or being a threat to human health, there has been an increase in that understanding for fur consumers from 16% up to 22%. But amongst non-fur consumers, we see the greatest change from 21% in 2020 to 61% in 2022. To understand that real fur causes a threat to human health. And again, we see that as a correlation to come out of the COVID pandemic as well, that there was lower awareness of the fur industry and the impacts of disease transmission, the risks of disease transmission, I should say, in wildlife. And while there was an understanding in the very beginning of the COVID pandemic that the COVID virus, the corona, may be linked to wildlife in terms of food, I think over the 2 years that there was more and more understanding of the impacts of wildlife trade in general, and understanding that now the fur industry and the use of real fur does cause a threat to human health. And we see that very clearly reflected in our survey results. As part of our consumer survey, for the 1,000 fur consumers that participated, there's also a segment in the survey where we provide them with a small education section with videos and information about the fur farming, the impact of fur farming on animals, the environment, as well as the current practices in the fur industry. And we found that before the awareness and the education segment, obviously the 1,000 fur consumers were willing to buy fur. But after just being informed of the impact of fur farming on human health, on animals and the environment, we found that the percentage of fur consumers who would continue to buy fur products decreased. And after a more in-depth education session, the fur consumers who would continue to buy fur products decreased even more. And that has been a very positive finding to show us that there is a willingness to go fur-free as a result of our education program. So after we have conducted the fur research, the consumer research for 3 years, we looked at the phenomenon, or the cognitive dissonance, as we call it, where fur users and fur consumers are aware of the impacts to the environment as well as aware of the animal suffering. And yet we see that they do continue to purchase fur products and use fur products. And we really wanted to understand why this is the case. Even before we had the results from our 2022 survey, we wanted to look at the heavy users of fur products and find out what is their motivation, what drives them to be heavy consumers of fur, and what can ACT Asia do in terms of our campaign, in terms of our education work, to hopefully be able to change their minds. And so this year in 2023, we undertook a new research focused on the heavy users. And these are the top 1/3 of the spenders for consumption. and where their consumption is greater than 10,000 yuan per year. And in terms of our sample and demographics, we interviewed a total of 12 people across 3 cities, Dalian, Shanghai, and Chengdu. And these are fur consumers who are aware that they are buying real animal fur. They own multiple full fur coats, and they have purchased full fur coats within the past 12 months. And we conducted in-depth research with these people to try to find out their motivations. And we found the results of this in-depth market research correlated with and supported the findings of our general consumer survey. So we found that the main reason that the heavy users buy the fur products is to look good because it's fashionable. That's the #1 top reason. And the second reason is because that they love the way it feels, the quality of real fur. They like the fact that fur is very good at helping them keep warm. And it is also a status symbol for them as well. And similar with the general consumer survey, mink is the most preferred type of fur to be purchased, again, because of its good texture, its softness. Fox is the second most popular. And these fur consumers prefer to buy products offline, especially at shopping malls or the fur city, because they need to judge the quality of the fur products through the touch and the feel of the material. And most of these heavy fur users in the wintertime, fur products are their daily wear. And they do feel that real fur is irreplaceable in terms of quality, in terms of how it looks, how it feels. Out of the 12 respondents, 5 respondents think that fur is irreplaceable. And the other respondents think that as technology improves, there is a possibility that artificial fur could replace real fur. And as the same with the general consumer survey, we also asked them regarding their perception of the fur industry. And we found that the heavy fur users have a very positive perception of the fur industry, that generally it is a strong and legitimate industry, that there is nothing wrong in terms of animals being used, breeding animals for human use, that it provides livelihood for the people who work in the fur industry, and that because the existence of the industry is permitted by law, it is legitimate and it is safe. We also showed the consumers a number of videos about the fur production process and our educational videos that we use in our campaign. And we found that the majority of the respondents said that even after watching the educational videos, they would continue to buy fur products and that the messages did not affect them at all. And only 1 person out of the 12 explicitly said that they would not buy fur products when they learned that fur is harmful to their family, their health, and to the environment. But in general, the fur users felt that the content of the videos about human health risk, environmental risk, lack of authority, that because the industry is permitted by government, permitted by law, then it must be safe and that it must be okay. And so we do see that this is going to be a challenging area for us in terms of our fur-free campaign going forward, that how we need to package our message for the heavy users. We need to rethink this and perhaps do even more research into understanding what might be the motivations to help them stop buying fur. So in conclusion, the results of our 3 years, the 3 consecutive research, as well, the fur consumer research, as well as our heavy user market research, has shown this year that the fur industry is driven by the fashion industry. And we found that, we are aware that as demand increases, production will increase to meet demand. And this is something that in ACT Asia's work, especially in terms of the other research that we have been doing on the fur industry, over recent years, we have seen production decrease. And that's been a very positive sign. Over the years, we have especially seen production and consumption of mink decrease. And that was also a very positive sign. However, it was a surprise to us this year in 2022 to find that the full fur coat is regaining its popularity. And we did do some qualitative research and we did ask around. And in terms of what many of the consumers have told us, is that part of the increase in demand may have been influenced by the success of the Winter Olympics in 2022. That as winter sports have gained in popularity, then the young people especially who are interested in taking part in these sports or going out to take part in these sports, that they have started buying more fur products. And so this is an area that we need to keep an eye on, that it seems that the fashion demand is increasing, and if demand increases, production will definitely increase to meet the demand. Despite that, we are still very pleased to be able to say that as a result of our consumer research, which the total sample size being over 5,000 consumers, over 70% of the consumers expect retailers to go fur-free as a trend in the future. And I hope I have enough time just to show this slide, that we asked them specifically 3 questions as consumers. Would they prefer to buy fashion items from retailers that do not sell animal fur products? And whether they think that refusing the sale of animal fur products has a positive effect on the public image of a fashion company or retailer. And we also asked them whether they would prefer to see more brands to not use or sell any kinds of fur, either animal fur or synthetic and faux fur. And it was very encouraging to see that over 70% of the respondents, both in 2020 and 2022, are consistent in their expectation for, as a trend going forward, for retailers to be going fur-free. And lastly, I just want you to recall a previous slide regarding the education segment that we had included as part of our general consumer survey. And it also has clearly shown that education is effective. That for those 1,000 fur consumers who partook in our survey, and they did watch the education videos and came to understand more about the fur industry and the potential harm and risk to the environment, to human health, that the majority of them, over 80% of them, turned around and said they no longer wish to buy fur products. Therefore, education is effective to change the attitudes and the behavior of the general consumer. And that is where we are headed. As in this forum, as we've heard many of our speakers talk, there is now a demand in terms of looking forward into the future for ESG, sustainability. People are learning about disease risks. People care about health. People care about the environment. People care about moving towards sustainability. And this is a very strong reason and motivation for us to continue our education programs. And ACT Asia will continue with our research to monitor the changes and find out what is driving these changes, and then develop the education programs needed to address the real situations and to see the change in sustainability and to go for free, which is what we wished to see. So I hope this talk has been interesting and informative. And I know that we have ACT Asia people on the ground there. If you wish to find out more, please talk to one of our staff or find out more from our website, our WeChat groups. And thank you for your support.
Thank
you. This is the end of my talk.
Joy.
Thank you.
Okay, after listening to Joy's presentation, I know many of you as to how do we talk about the youth options and everything is now circled up and back to for free because this raw material really brought us so much thought to all of us. It's very thought-provoking and require us to use our logical thinking to decide how to deal with it. And now that from the consumer survey, we found that the education really is helpful to reshape everybody's mind, but it takes a very long process and there are obstacles whom there are people that we cannot reach, but due to some commercial campaigns or the Winter Olympics and started to form their own bias and opinions in terms of consumption choices they make. So this is meaning that everything we do, we must include more influencers and the enterprises to join in order to really make it possible. All right, now we have a Q&A session. Our staff will move up the chairs onto the stage. Our several speakers will join the next Q&A session, after which we're going to take you on a tour of that exhibition. As today, we talked so much about the apparel consumptions in terms of ESG, but from a relooks perspective, we know that not only what we wear, but what we use in our daily lives are also a part of ESG as for sustainability as well. So after that, we're going to take you on a tour on the power of plant. Okay, now our Q&A speakers can come onto the stage and take your seats, please. Okay, now, so do we have any questions from the floor? Are you scratching your head or do you have a question? Okay, anyway, we've collected several questions from our online viewers. Let's start from those ones. Also, our offline participants, if you have any questions, we can also let you ask those questions. Joy is also online with us, and we're all going to be a part of this Q&A together. First question to Lexi Chen. The younger generation consumers, considering their values and actions, how can we actually help to drive enterprise ESGs? Is it something that the young consumers can do by themselves? Well, let me ask to confirm the question, how young people can help with enterprises ESGs. Well, that is right. Like in my presentation, I said that for the young people, their attention they pay to sustainability, the actions they've taken, they would be aware and make such choices that are more ESG oriented. And when they're making consumption decisions, they would also have such awareness to influence their own bias and the way they make their decisions. And in our surveys, we also find that the young partners, when they make their consumption choices, they really care about whether the materials is environmental friendly, and those enterprises that have been on the negative news coverage would be excluded by their own choices. Also, the young people are finding it very confusing. They care about it, but they don't know how to participate by themselves. Apart from purchasing, there are some options they can make. But when in terms of studying or going on travels or in mobility or looking into the longer term when they're working, how do they participate in ESG or environmental friendly? Because people would normally feel like this topic is so far away from my daily life. Many people would think in this way, but in reality, in fact, the overall trend is that consumers would really value those enterprises who value ESG more. Okay, so apart from those people working in this industry, they can participate in terms of opinion feedbacks and the plan makings, and consumption is still one of the biggest impact they could make in terms of in this. Next question.
Yes, our audience want to know, how do consumers know whether their jeans comes from sustainable resources?
Yeah, that's a really good question. As I mentioned in my talk, there is a lot of labeling that's coming from brands that can be quite confusing. I think the things to look out for are where there's no real organization that certifies a jean to be 100% sustainable. But I think you've got to be looking for what kind of fiber that it's made from. Is it from organic? Is it hemp? And ask a lot of questions and put pressure back on the retailers and the brands to give you the answers. It's a very tricky area still today.
Okay, and I think so. And they have the next question I want to ask guys. And how do you think what is the biggest challenge in your education? I mean, for the sustainability in the denim industry?
The biggest challenge, I think the easy part for me is that the denim, when I set out to do this 2 years ago, I was concerned if I could get enough universities and schools interested to let this strange Englishman come in and speak to them. And could I get the industry to support me? But I think there's no really big challenge anymore for me in this, because the denim, one of the things I love about the denim industry is it really is a community, and I get support from so many companies to be able to come in. I guess the challenge is there's only me. So getting around enough places, and I probably have to think about getting more people involved in this. But I don't find time's a challenge. Distance has been a challenge, yes. But now we can be back in China, so I'm very happy about that.
Thank you, thank you. 我们会发现，就是整个大环境的变化。
Okay, thank you very much. Now that we see with the macro environment changes to involve more people to join the initiatives is also a very big challenge. And considering that big environment change, now that in 2023, finally we can enjoy a bit more freedom of travel, but 2022 or the year before, we've been restrained so much by the COVID and the relevant lockdowns. So now we have some questions for Joy.
After COVID, 你觉得皮草养殖依然会
So
是我
after
们下一
COVID,
个
do you
大流行
think
病的
prefer farming will still be the source of the virus bank when the next round of the pandemic break out? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yes, I think somebody has said earlier, and in terms of ACT Asia and our research and the work that we have done in this area, it is very clear to us, not just for farming, but whenever, when you have wildlife and we try to bring wildlife into a closed area, a small area, you've got a large number of animals in a high density in a small area. That is what it takes for disease transmission. That is also a great environment for virus mutation. And so definitely that as long as fur farming continues, it poses a human health risk in terms of where the next pandemic is going to come from. Obviously, I can't say, but I believe that a video was shown earlier at the start of this forum that talks, for example, about the HIV virus, about the SARS virus, and that it is coming from wildlife. And with fur farming, you have wildlife concentrated in a small area, large number, tens of thousands of animals, and that is a breeding ground for the virus. So yes, as I hope I've answered the question, but yes, in terms of fur farming, it will always remain a risk for human health and disease transmission, for the potential for the next pandemic.
Thank you. 好，我们很谢谢 Joey 跟我们的分享。
Thank you very much, Joy, for the answer. So basically, we agree upon that as a risk factor, but actually throughout today's session, we are trying to make more innovative and bravery approaches to overcome those challenges. There are many issues that we can go back to the designing stage to solve them. So next question goes to Mr. Kang from Vigatex. We do have many young designers. They are willing to be more sustainable, but the textile cost is very high. For many young designers, they wouldn't be able to purchase that large amount. So would you do anything to solve those issues? Actually, sometimes we will bring economical and financial support on those designers. This is exactly how enterprises should support the implementation of ESG. Mr. Kang said that if we can give a financial support and discount to the young designers with those plant-based textile, those can be a good option. The production cost, we have to admit, it's actually very high. But we also admit the hard work by our young designers. They also face a lot of challenges. I think it's just based on mutual understanding and mutual support. I do believe Mr. Kang has actually concluded today's session with a really great word by him. When we are trying to go from fur-free to the full implementation in ESG, each of us in the industry may have different attitudes, but we also have our own resources to take advantage of. Within the reach that we have, let's continue to work through the same targets, and ultimately we will be able to achieve a good development goal in the future. And when we support more of the young designers, they are also bringing back the feedback loop, so you can also more enlightened. Yes, exactly. So in the future, in addition to the plant-based textiles and in the denim industry, there will be more consumers accepting the clean denim and the green denim products. So not only we can ensure the current demands are met, but also make it more greener and environmental friendly. And as a young generation, let's continue to collaborate to achieve the green consumption in the long run. I'd like to share with you some latest news. In September, from the United Nations recently published a report. We are very much using the ESG framework to support the achievement on the Paris Accord targets. Actually, we are already deviated from the goal we are trying to achieve in the beginning. With such a stringent time period and duration, I think fashion industry can make our voices heard. Maybe the Winter Olympics can make some influence on the choice you make, but today, the choice we make and the strategy we want to implement in the future will also have a major impact on the consumer behavior and actions they make. So today's discussion topic is really essential. When we are trying to be more green and more friendly to the environment, just like Mr. Kang has mentioned, as long as each of the enterprises is willing to contribute, and like David providing us their experiences, and like Chen Xi from Relook, we want to continuously provide information on the young consumers and designers, so we can jointly achieve the target in the long run. So a big thank you and appreciation to all of the participants today. In today's meeting, we encourage you to be more empathetic and compassionate in making the right consumption. I hope you can be critical with your good mindset. Let's show our responsibility and let's be accountable for the new fashion. Thank you very much again. I want to encourage our camera guy to have a photo together with Joy online.
Thank you, 谢谢 Thank you for all our keynote speakers and our audience offline and online.好，那我们接下来。